Kyra Sedgwick has been Kevin Bacon's partner for nearly 4 decades. But behind the Hollywood smiles, something has been building. During their recent film together, crew members noticed strange tension between them. Kyra was seen having intense private conversations with their children. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Sources close to the family say Kevin's latest project has crossed a line Kyra can't ignore. Now, she's saying goodbye to something she never thought she'd leave behind. The reason will shock you. Kyra Sedgwick came into the world on August 19, 1965, in New York City. At first glance, her life looked lined with comfort. Her mother carried a wealthy German Jewish background, and her father came from an old American family whose roots stretched back to the Revolution. Their stories carried names like Judge Theodore Sedgwick and long threads of political power. Still, even inside a home filled with history and privilege, something felt uneven. Her mother leaned toward therapy and open talks. Her father lived fast inside a business world that demanded control. By the time Kyra was 4, cracks were already forming. Money trouble hit after her father's risky business decisions, and the tension inside the house grew louder. She lived between 2 different worlds, and this early mix of privilege and pressure shaped how she understood life. Then things broke. At age 4, her parents separated. A long custody battle followed and pulled her back and forth between her mother's small, therapy-filled apartment and her father's elegant Upper East Side home. When she turned 6, the divorce was final, but nothing felt settled. She learned fast that comfort did not protect anyone from emotional storms. She felt lost sometimes, caught between 2 homes, and expected to adjust without complaint. So she wrote. She imagined. She created stories that helped her breathe. Those small acts became survival tools and slowly turned into the emotional strength she carried into her acting. Her family stories were never quiet. Her half-brother, Mike Stern, a brilliant jazz guitarist 13 years older than her, carried both genius and pain. He played with blood, sweat, and tears, and steps ahead, and critics called him one of the greats of the 1990s. But behind all the praise, he fought heroin addiction. In 1986, he overdosed and nearly died. Doctors rushed him into an emergency liver transplant. For Kyra, every trip to see him meant stepping into a world full of brilliant music, but also fear. She watched someone she loved battle something she could not fix. It deepened her understanding of addiction and taught her early that talent and suffering often travel together. Later, when she played characters with heavy emotional weight, she drew from those memories. Her own inner world was shaped by identity too. Kyra identified mainly as Jewish, and she grew up sitting at Passover tables and listening to her mother talk about roots and rituals. Therapy became part of her childhood after the divorce. It helped her untangle the confusion she carried. When her mother married a deeply religious Jewish art dealer, Kyra's connection to her heritage grew stronger. She learned how emotions rise and settle, and how rituals can steady a shaking heart. These lessons stayed with her and guided how she approached relationships and the characters she later played. There were stories inside her family that felt like warnings. One was the story of Edie Sedgwick, a distant relative who became an icon in Andy Warhol's circle. Edie burned bright, but died at 28 in 1971, after years of anorexia, bulimia, mental illness, and drug abuse. Kyra heard those stories growing up. They felt glamorous at first, but turned tragic quickly. They taught her that fame carried shadows, and that the world she wanted to step into could swallow people whole. That awareness pushed her to stay grounded as she chased acting dreams. School brought another set of challenges. She attended Friends Seminary in Manhattan from kindergarten. It was an elite place where people whispered about family names and backgrounds. When she was 12, she realized acting made her feel understood. But bullying came fast once classmates connected her to her powerful family line. They mocked her, pointed at her heritage, and tried to make her shrink. Instead, she poured her feelings into every school performance. Teachers noticed. They pushed her forward and encouraged her to explore the craft that already felt like home. In 1983, she started college at Sarah Lawrence. It was a place full of creativity, but she only stayed a year. She shocked her father when she dropped out to chase acting auditions. He wanted her to follow a steady path, but she felt something else calling her. In 1984, she transferred to the University of Southern California's theater department. There she found tough training, long nights, and serious competition. It sharpened her skills and gave her the base she needed to climb higher. Her career started before all that. In 1982, when she was just 16, she landed her first paid acting job on the soap opera Another World. She played Julia Shearer, a teenager stuck in a messy custody fight. She appeared in 29 episodes and earned $500 per episode. Critics brushed it off as ordinary soap work, but for her, it felt like a key turning in a lock. It told her she could build a life in this world. During USC summers, she interned at the Public Theater in New York. It was gritty and bold. One summer in 1985, she almost got seriously hurt during rehearsals when a heavy set piece malfunctioned and crashed near her. She dodged it, shaken but unharmed. That moment taught her how unpredictable live theater could be and how careful actors needed to be. By 1987, she finished her degree. Before graduating, she directed a short film about her parents' divorce. It won a campus award and showed that she could create from behind the camera too. She balanced 10 auditions a week while finishing school. That drive carried her into her next steps and planted early seeds for the directing she would later become known for. In that same year, when she was 21, she performed in an off-Broadway play called Dakota's Belly. She played a Native American activist, a role that sparked loud controversy. Native American groups protested the casting and called the play insensitive. The protests gathered outside the theater every night. But critics praised her raw performance, and she received a Drama Desk nomination. It marked her first major moment of recognition. It also showed her that important roles often live in the middle of risk and debate. In 1988, she acted in Lemon Sky opposite Kevin Bacon. Their chemistry lit up the screen and soon carried into real life. Bacon invited the cast to dinners just to be close to her. When that did not work, he invited her to his hotel for a massage. That became their first private moment. The production shifted midway and forced Kyra to improvise an intense emotional confrontation in one long take. The performance stunned viewers and opened doors for her. It was also the start of a relationship that turned into marriage later that year. She kept climbing. In 1989, she played a journalist in The Man Who Lived at the Ritz, a World War II drama filmed with real explosions and collapsing sets. During one scene, debris struck her and caused minor injuries. It reminded her again that acting was not just a job, but a physical commitment. Then came a small but powerful part. She guest starred in the pilot of NYPD Blue in 1990. To prepare, she shadowed real officers and listened to stories of abuse and fear. The pain in those stories changed her. When the cameras rolled, she held that weight in her voice. The experience pushed her into supporting victims' rights later in her career. That same spirit surged again in 1991 when she directed and performed in a workshop production of The Vagina Monologues. The play faced censorship. Some theater officials tried stopping it. She refused to back down. The workshop became a feminist milestone and strengthened her voice both on stage and off. Then came her Hollywood jump. In Born on the 4th of July, released in 1989, she played Donna, the girlfriend of Ron Kovic, played by Tom Cruise. The role asked for emotional truth. During one scene, she wore a prosthetic leg for days to match the character's experience. Cruise noticed her dedication and praised her for making the moment feel real. Shooting days ran 12 hours, and the pressure never let up. But this performance helped her step into serious film territory. In Mr. and Mrs. Bridge in 1990, she played Ruth Bridge, working alongside Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. Newman insisted on specific blocking for a key scene, but she disagreed and pushed back. Their argument stopped filming for nearly an hour. Later, the director admitted the fight helped shape a stronger scene. Moments like that showed her willingness to protect the truth of her characters. She kept pushing boundaries. In Kansas, in 1991, she played a punk rocker. She learned guitar basics in 2 weeks, bought her own wardrobe with her own money, and kept her hair dyed for the 6-week shoot. The film was small, but became a cult favorite, and critics loved her energy. That same year, she acted with Kevin Bacon again in Pirates, a bold and explicit comedy filmed in a cramped New York apartment. Some scenes pushed limits and sparked talk about what mainstream films were willing to show. Their marriage was still new, and the on-screen intimacy made interviews awkward. Still, she took the role fully and gained attention for her boldness. Kyra Sedgwick stepped into singles in 1992, and something clicked the moment the camera found her. She played Linda Powell with a kind of nervous spark that felt fresh, and that spark kept growing as the movie rolled on. There was one scene where she suddenly came out with a line that no one expected. She looked straight ahead and said that she thought a person had an act, and that not having an act was their act. People still repeat that line because it sounded so real and sharp and slightly funny at the same time. The film itself lived inside the Seattle grunge world. You could feel it everywhere. The clubs, the music, the Pearl Jam cameos, and inside all that noise she stood there with her chain smoking and her messy worries about love, shaping the story bit by bit. Cameron Crowe saw how she kept dropping little surprises into each take and let her improvise again and again. When Singles came out on September 18, 1992, it made more than $18 million and slowly became a picture of what early 90s Seattle felt like. Earlier that same year, she had already shaken people with Miss Rose White. It aired on April 26, 1992, and she played Rose with a kind of quiet force that grew stronger in every scene. She learned Yiddish for the role and dug into the emotional history of a woman who suddenly learns her sister survived the Holocaust and made it to America. The shooting days were long. Some lasted 14 hours, and she spent many of them in heavy grief scenes that drained her completely. But the work paid off when she won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress. Critics pointed out how she brought honesty to every moment, and it shifted the way people saw her almost overnight. Then came Something to Talk About in 1995. She played Emma Ray King, and the role pushed her body as much as her emotions. She rode real horses and took real falls. One fall left her with cracked ribs, and the pain slipped quietly into her performance and made her scenes harsher and more grounded. The movie arrived in August 1995 and brought her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actress. People talked about how she held her own next to big stars, while fighting through bruises the audience never saw. In 1996, she stepped into Phenomenon and played Lace with a softer touch. John Travolta played a man changed by something supernatural, and Sedgwick brought balance to him with a calm that felt warm. One of the most powerful scenes between them was an unscripted piano duet that she pushed to improvise. It was filmed during a quiet night in rural Colorado, and the stillness around them made the moment feel intimate and almost fragile. The movie blended romance and mystery in a way that earned steady praise, and her choice to keep the emotions raw lifted the whole story. A year later, she took a sharp turn and played Felicia Potter in Critical Care in 1997. It was a cold and unsettling role. She studied inside real intensive care units, watching families face impossible decisions. That experience made her scenes hit harder, especially the bedside moments where she fought for her father's final care. The cast was full of strong names like James Spader and Helen Mirren, but Sedgwick's ability to walk the line between manipulation and pain made her unforgettable. The movie was released in November 1997 and pushed conversations about medical ethics far beyond the screen. In 2005, she stepped into The Closer, and everything changed again. Before the pilot even filmed, she sat down with a camera and tried out more than 50 Southern accents. She wanted Brenda Lee Johnson to sound like someone who really grew up in Georgia, not someone pretending for television. When she showed the tapes, the creators could not believe how far she went. That commitment shaped the entire tone of the show. The pilot aired on June 13, 2005, and the audience met a detective who felt sharp, charming, emotional, and unpredictable all at once. As The Closer grew, so did her influence. By season 4, she earned around $300,000 per episode, but in 2008, a fight broke out behind the scenes. She wanted Brenda's eating disorder storyline to stay real. The studio wanted to soften it. She stood her ground, even though it put everything at risk. Her push won, and the arc stayed. That moment became a turning point because it showed how firmly she believed in honest storytelling. To make Brenda's interrogations feel true, she spent time with LAPD detectives in 2006. She rode with them. She watched how they navigated gang violence and how they used psychological tricks in interviews. She said she learned that deception was almost a tool, and she carried that into Brenda's sharp questions on screen. Many scenes were pulled straight from what she saw in real rooms. That effort helped the show gain respect from people inside the actual police world. Then came a surprise shift. From 2013 to 2021, she stepped into Brooklyn Nine-Nine as Chief Madeline Wunsch. She filmed her episodes in fast one-day blocks because she was busy directing, yet she still delivered performances that earned her an Emmy nomination. She made Wunsch cold, clever, and funny in a quiet, wicked way, and the rivalry with Captain Holt quickly became a favorite part of the show. In 2021, she took on Call Your Mother. It was personal to her because she drew from her own life as a mom of Travis and Sosie. Jean Rains was a parent trying to reconnect with her grown kids, and Sedgwick helped shape the show from the inside. Even though it was canceled after one season, she talked openly about how much the work meant to her. Fans wished it had lasted longer, but many said that the honesty she brought to family moments stayed with them. Her career kept growing. In 2010, she finally won the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress after 6 straight nominations from 2006 to 2011. People expected Juliana Margulies from The Good Wife to win that year because she had swept most of the awards leading up to the Emmys. Even the other nominees were giants: Glenn Close, Connie Britton, January Jones, Mariska Hargitay. The competition was intense, but Sedgwick's episode Maternal Instincts carried her to an upset victory that shocked the room and cemented her as a powerhouse. She also won the Golden Globe in 2007 and talked openly about how she had to go to therapy to protect her voice while mastering Brenda's Southern accent. She let people see the physical cost of the work. That honesty made the win feel even bigger. Between 2006 and 2012, she earned 7 SAG nominations for The Closer. In 2011, she lost to Juliana Margulies again, but afterward she spoke out about pay inequity. She said that actresses with proven success still earned less than men in similar positions. Her stance became part of a larger push for fairness and made her a strong voice in the industry. Kyra Sedgwick was 21 in 1987 when she walked onto the set of the film Lemon Sky and met Kevin Bacon. He was not just a co-star. Very quickly, he became the person she stayed up late with, talking for hours, eating quiet dinners, and waking up the next morning feeling like something in her life had clicked into place. Kevin even tried to set up a date by asking her masseuse when Kyra's appointment was. At the time, she thought that was a little creepy, but later it just felt funny and very Kevin. From the outside, it looked simple. 2 actors meet on a movie. They fall in love. But inside her family home, it was tense. Kyra's mother was Jewish. Kevin was Catholic. Her mother did not like the match at all. The fights and pressure were real and heavy. Kyra later said that her mother's disapproval almost ended the whole thing before it really began. Yet somehow, through all that noise, the 2 of them stayed together. By Christmas Eve 1987, they were not breaking up. They were getting engaged. They did not drag things out. On September 4th, 1988, they got married at a southern plantation, simple and low-key. Kevin wore a light gray plaid suit. Kyra wore a white lace gown. There were no huge stadium crowds, no giant Hollywood stage, just a small wedding and 2 people who thought they had time to figure the rest out. But then came the honeymoon choice that changed everything. Soon after the wedding, Kyra decided to stop using birth control. It was not an accident. She later admitted it was intentional. She wanted a baby right away. Hollywood might have thought they were rushing. She did not care. Very quickly, she became pregnant. Less than a year after the wedding, on June 23, 1989, their son Travis was born. One moment, they were newlyweds. The next, they were parents in their 20s with a baby, careers, and everyone watching how they would handle it. Then came their daughter. On March 15, 1992, Kyra gave birth to Sosie, just as her film career was really taking off. There was no quiet, gentle pause for motherhood. She had press tours to do for the movie Singles, so she did them with a baby in her arms. She breastfed Sosie between interviews and sometimes during long days of promotion. She was exhausted, stretched thin, but she kept going. Later, she started to talk openly about how hard it had been to juggle newborn life with studio schedules, cameras, and public expectations. That honesty led her to push for better support for mothers on sets. She fought for flexible schedules and real lactation rooms instead of awkward corners. Slowly, people listened. Other women saw her not just as a star, but as someone willing to talk about how brutal that balancing act could be. As her family grew, so did the risks she took in her work. In 2004, Kyra and Kevin stepped into one of the darkest stories of their careers with the film The Woodsman. Kevin played a man who had been convicted of abusing children and was trying to find some kind of redemption. Kyra played his wife. The subject was heavy and disturbing. It crawled into their heads and did not leave when the cameras turned off. The 2 of them went to couples therapy because of how intense it felt. They also spent time at a farm retreat in Connecticut, far from sets and lights, trying to reconnect and wash some of that darkness out of their system. Instead of breaking them, the process made their bond stronger. They learned how to talk more clearly, how to support each other when the work dug into painful territory. Therapy stopped being a one-time thing and became a tool they used to carry their marriage forward. Their work and their marriage kept folding into each other. Years later, in 2012, Kyra took on a different kind of fear with the horror film The Possession. She played a mother fighting a Dybbuk, a spirit from Jewish folklore that takes over a young girl. To prepare, she did not just skim a script. She read about Hasidic exorcism rituals, studied religious texts, and spoke with experts. The final exorcism sequence, led by a Hasidic rabbi on screen, pulled directly from those real traditions. The deeper she went, the heavier it became. Kyra started having vivid nightmares. The production even paused for a week because the role had shaken her so hard. Some of her Jewish relatives were upset by how graphic and controversial the story felt. The experience left a mark. It changed how she looked at horror, at spirituality, and at what she was willing to put herself through psychologically in future projects. While she was pushing herself as an actor, she was also building something bigger behind the camera. When The Closer ended in 2012, Kyra did not just relax on past success. She launched her production company, Big Swing Pictures, with a focus on female LED stories. One of its first big swings was Reach Me in 2014, a small faith-based independent film that somehow pulled in around 50 celebrity cameos. Sylvester Stallone was there, Tom Arnold, Tom Sizemore, and many others, plus real spiritual figures. The story was about an anonymous self-help book that quietly changes people's lives, connecting them in unexpected ways. Kyra used a lot of the money she had earned on The Closer to help finance it. Distributors were stunned by all the cameos and by the strange web-like structure of the movie. Reach Me premiered at the 2014 Los Angeles Film Festival. Reviews were mixed, but it slowly picked up a passionate little following. For Kyra, it proved that she could build something herself, gather big names, and push a message about growth and second chances even without a giant studio behind her. By 2016, she was doing more than just leading shows or producing films. In The Edge of 17, she lent her voice to the role of Nadine's mother. On paper, it sounded simple, just voice work. In practice, it was emotional. She had to sound like a parent lost in grief after the death of a husband and trapped in a complicated relationship with a teenage daughter. The performance felt raw, quiet, and real. People connected with that honesty. It showed that even in a supporting part, she could add weight to a story just by sounding like someone barely holding it together. Then came 2017, and she stepped into the director's chair for the first time with a feature-length project. Her debut as a director was the Lifetime movie Story of a Girl, based on Sarah Zar's novel. She did not play it safe. She cast Kevin as Michael, a pizza shop owner who spends much of the story shirtless and who is also a gay dad. That twist was not in the novel. It came from her own USC directing thesis, where she had explored families that did not fit the standard mold. The project was not easy to get made. HBO passed on it. Kyra believed in it so much that she used her own money to help fund the film. Story of a Girl finally aired on July 23, 2017, running for about 90 minutes. It followed Deanna, a teen girl whose life is torn apart by a sex video that spreads and never goes away. The film dug into slut-shaming, family pain, and the possibility of redemption. Kyra used her experience as an actor to guide Ryan Shane, who played Deanna, through all those vulnerable scenes. Kevin's role as a gay dad sparked debate. Some people questioned how roles like that should be cast. Kyra defended her choices as part of her own artistic vision and her understanding of family. For her, the story was not just about scandal. It was about how families survive judgment. She kept stretching herself. In 2019, she guest-directed the Grace and Frankie episode called The Aid. On the surface, it was a comedy about two older women. Underneath it held something rare on television. Kyra pushed hard for real intimacy between senior characters, not the cleaned-up version that usually appears in scripts. Co-creator Marta Kaufman admitted she was surprised by how far Kyra wanted to go in showing mature romance and sex with honesty. Kyra drew on her own parents' experiences with late-life relationships and insisted that these moments be shown with dignity, humor, and truth. The episode stood out because it refused to pretend that love and desire end at a certain age. Around the same time, Kyra was already thinking in bigger visual worlds. In 2022, she made her feature film directing debut with Space Oddity, a drama about family guilt and environmental anxiety. That film earned her a Directors Guild nomination and proved that she could tell stories that were intimate and still connected to global fears. She continued to direct episodes of television and to produce films, including a horror project with Kevin and their daughter Sosie. Their partnership shifted from just acting together to co-directing and co-producing, blending their home life with their creative life. Also in 2022, she stepped into a very different universe, one filled with aliens, spaceships, and Christmas lights. She became an executive producer and voice actor for the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special on Disney+. In the special, Mantis and Drax kidnap Kevin Bacon and bring him to space as a gift for Star-Lord. Kyra appears only as a voice, playing herself over the phone. But even that tiny role came with something important to her. She negotiated family inclusion clauses that made sure Travis and Sosie were involved behind the scenes. The special came out on November 25, 2022, and audiences loved its mix of humor and heart. For Kyra, it was proof that she could move into a huge franchise without leaving her family behind. The next year, in 2023, she joined The Summer I Turned Pretty as Aunt Julia in Season 2. Filming during 2022 was shaped by strict COVID rules. Daily testing, limited crews, social distancing, and constant protocols changed everything about how a set felt. At one point, Kyra had to direct key beach scenes from home. She did it remotely through video calls, coordinating not only with the crew, but also with Sosie, who appeared in the series. They worked together to keep their scenes emotional and real, even through screens. The story itself dug deeper into family ties and tension, and Kyra's character added both warmth and friction. Her ability to direct from a distance and still keep that family heartbeat strong impressed the team, and showed how sets could adapt when the world shut down. In 2024, she went even more personal and experimental. She directed shorts that played at Sundance, exploring themes of guilt passed from one generation to the next and questions of identity. She pulled from her own family history, from the Sedgwick connection to the art world, and to Warhol's factory, to show how old stories echo inside new ones. The shorts shocked some viewers with how directly they tied private family memories to wider social pressures. It was another step in her shift from actor to filmmaker who uses her own life as material. That same year, she took a public stand that stirred up conversation across Hollywood. She spoke out strongly against what she called Jew-face, the practice of casting non-Jewish actors in explicitly Jewish roles. She made it clear that she believed Jewish stories should center Jewish performers. At the same time, she defended Kevin's range and his long history of playing characters who are not Jewish. Her point was not to attack his career, but to push the industry toward more authentic choices, especially in projects about Jewish life. Her next project tied that belief directly into her work. She and Kevin began developing a horror comedy called Family Movie, co-directed with their children. The story follows a family of filmmakers who suddenly find themselves in a real horror situation. The film plays with identity, fear, and the strange bonds that form when a family creates art together. Through it, Kyra tried to join her advocacy, her family life, and her love for complicated stories in one project. All of this was building toward a powerful return in front of the camera with Kevin. In 2025, they starred together in The Best You Can, their first film as joint leads in about 20 years. The movie is a romantic comedy set in New York. Kyra plays Cynthia Rand, a urologist. Kevin plays a security guard. Their characters find each other through late-night texts and shared worries about getting older. The film premiered at the Tribeca Festival on June 7, 2025. The most intense moments were the breakup scenes. Kyra later admitted that during those takes, she was crying real tears, and that a voice in her head whispered, "What if this was us?" The line between character and marriage blurred. Some people who watched the film even wondered if there was trouble in their real relationship. She explained later that they were not falling apart. They were simply letting all their years of love and pain and fear pour into the scene. The film earned a standing ovation and was praised for its honest look at middle-aged romance. The digital release followed on November 25, 2025, through Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, and it reminded audiences how strong their on-screen and off-screen connection still was. Through all of this, Kyra did not fade into the background or quietly retire. Her career already stretched over more than 40 years and more than 100 credits, from The Closer to films to voice work. Now she had added director, producer, advocate, and sometimes remote boss on a beach set to that list. She stayed active on social media, kept working with Kevin, and kept choosing projects that scared her a little.